This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good morning everyone. We're continuing Mishna Berura Daf Hashavua. We're up to Siman Tzadi, Sif Chav Hey. Even though we learned in Sif Chav Dalid that a person should not daven on the side of his Rebbe, and not behind his Rebbe, and not in front of his Rebbe, Sif Chav Hey we learned Talmid Chaver Muter L'Spalel Acharei Rabbi. A Talmid Chaver, a student who's also a contemporary, he could daven behind the Rebbe. What's the reason why you're not supposed to daven Acharei Rebbe? Because it looks gaivadik. But if you're somewhat of an associate, says Mishna Berura Acharei Rabbi v'adin b'tzad Rabbi, or on the side of Rebbe, aval lefnei Rabbi aser. In front of your Rebbe, in front of the Rebbe, it's aser. The Mishna Berura in Sivkat and Ein Hey said earlier, lefanav is a kavachomer, because it's a bezayah in the Rabbi that you're standing behind him. Okay. It's a bezayah for the Rebbe that the Rebbe is standing behind you. Okay, Siv Chavav. Kamakam she'in karn by Kriya Shema, in mispalam by. Any place that you're not to say Shema, you're not to say Shema Esrei. Uchshem shemachikim mitzayah omer aglam v'rechro min ames marira se'erva l'Kriya Shema, kach marchikim l'tfila. Just like you have to distance from excrement, from urine, from a bad smell, from a dead body, and from erva for Shema, likewise for Tefillah. Says the Mishna Berura, Sivkatan Pei Beis, Marchikim L'Tfila V'Adin L'Talmud Torah V'Chol Dvar Kedusha. Same thing with the Dvar Torah or any matter of Kedusha. What about doing a mitzvah b'makom metunaf? So Bir Halachin Takpach Siman Tavkuf Pei Chesed the Rishu brings says that we don't find anywhere that it's usher to do a mitzvah b'makom metunaf, and the Mater Ephraim says you should do it again without a bracha. And the reason is because since you're chayiv to have kavanah, that itself is considered divrei Torah. So therefore you weren't allowed to do it there. It's difficult to say, especially what if somebody would rely on the Chai Adam, so you didn't have kavanah, so then it would be okay. Then the Mater Ephraim brings another reason is it's like you're doing avodas Hashem. It's not a proper makom to do. It's derech bizayon, so therefore it should be done again. Says the Mechaber Siv Chav Zayin, Haya oimed b'tfila v'hishten tinak beis haknesses. You're standing in davening, and a child urinated in the shul. Yishtaik, you should remain static, meaning you should be silent. You should not continue davening ad sheyaviu mayim lahata al mei haraglam until they bring water to put on the urine, or you walk 4 amos ahead, or it should be on the side, or leave the shul v'yigmer tvas. You're middle of the davening. You're up to re'eva on yenu. All of a sudden, tinok is mashten. So what do? Either you wait until they dilute it, or you move to the side, or you go 4 amos away, or you go out of the shul. Hagav yosetav leilech l'makam acher v'loy lishtaik. It's better not to pause. It's better to walk and to continue davening elsewhere. Why? You might delay the amount of time it takes to finish the whole thing, and you'll have to go back to the beginning. This is a chiddush. You would think, what's a bigger hefsek? Pausing or walking away? Says Rama, maybe really walking away inherently is a bigger hefsek, but the pause entails in it a chash that you might delay the amount of time it takes to finish the whole thing. Says the Mishna Berura, B'tfila, v'adin b'kriyas Shema. The same halach would apply if this happened during Shema, Shar Divrei Kedusha, Chumash Gosavnu Lamal, like we wrote above. V'nokat Tefila Rabusa, picked Tefila as a chiddush. The bezeh gam kein tzarich leilech lefanav arba amos. The chiddush here is that you need to get up and move, and we don't say we don't say, well, you're grandfathered into the place. You took the 3 steps back and you stood over here, so you don't have to move. We don't say such a thing. Yishtaik. You should be silent. Dechol zeh loy mikri hefsek. Remaining silent is not a hefsek. Aval asur lahafsek b'dibur lavi lamayim. It's asur to interrupt by speaking to ask for water. Why? Because the Isser of urine is only midrabanan. So you can't ask for it with words. Some even say you don't really have to distance. Therefore, if there are others in the presence of the Meraglaim, you don't have to let them know. Now, I'm not sure why you can't be mafsik and ask for water. The halacha is, let's say you forgot Yalav, but you don't know whether you need to go back or not. You're allowed to ask a shaila. It's a hefsik. You're allowed to. So why over here not? Because only D'Rabbanan. Okay, and going back because you miss Yalav Yavai, it's not D'Oraisa either. I guess because either bring the water or walk away. Maybe because there's another option here. Meaning if the only option would be to bring water, so you can't talk, even though the Mishnah Berurah is not mashon this way, you can't talk maybe because if you don't get water, you have other alternatives. Mashenkin, if you don't know a halacha, then you are allowed to ask a shaila. There's no alternative there. Let's say a child soiled his diaper. And people are standing and davening and they don't know. If there's no way to let them know, there you're saying that from Esdaraisa. So you could, if you go to them, like this, and they don't get the message, so you're allowed to say, you're in a danger zone. There's tsoya there. Why? Because their davening is an Isser Daraisa. Why? Demutav sheyasahu isser. Better for you to do a small avera. Dahainu isser d'Rabban lahavsik b'tfila. That is a rabbinic prohibition of speaking by tefillah. Mishayasu achim isser d'oraisa. That is l'spal b'makom metunaf. We already explained in length when it's considered a d'oraisa to daven in a makom metunaf. This is talking about where you don't have what to cover the tzaya in. If you have what to cover it in, bein b'tzaya, whether excrement, or vein b'meiragayim, afser lahavsik, it's also to interrupt, even to move out of its place, if the bad smell doesn't reach you. Meaning if you could just cover it, then it's afser lahavsik. Which, by the way, which is another alternative. In other words, when a person has meiraglaim in their presence, they can't speak to get water. Again, there might be another eitzah, you could cover it. Okay. The Ramah says it's better to walk away than to remain silent. Let's say you're afraid that during the amount of time it takes to clean up, you're going to wait the amount of time it would take you to finish the whole Shemana Esrei. And you also don't have the option of going out of the 4 amos. Let's say you can't walk out of the 4 amos because you have a guy davening Shemana Esrei there and you can't walk in his Daled Amos. Yismech ala Rajba. You could rely on the Rajba, the Svirale, the Mutar lehispalel. You could rely on the Rajba who holds that you're allowed to daven. Kivan shekvar hu oimed betfila, because you're in the middle of davening. The shita of the Rajba is by meiraglayim, since you're already davening. And the Isser Meir Glam is only D'Rabbanan, you're allowed to continue davening. V'yitztorech, ayin le'el, b'siman ayin ches, Mishna Berurah Sivkat and Hey, the Berechas Kriyas Shema, Nes Damen Kain, V'chein B'chal HaBrachos. Then the halacha is, by Kriyas Shema, if you have to pause, and you pause the amount of time it takes to complete the whole thing, Ein Tzarech Lachzil Rosh, you don't have to go back to the beginning. So in Siman ayin ches, in the Mishna Berurah Sivkat and Hey, he brings that by Birchas Kriyas Shema, if such a thing happened, you don't have to go back to the beginning. But regarding the Dirshu says, that's only if you delayed between one bracha and another. and also where you didn't delay the amount of time it takes to say the entirety of the Brachas Kriya Shema. But if you delay the amount of time it takes to say the entirety of the Kriya Shema, you have to go back to the beginning of the bracha. Now, by Shemona Esrei, let's say you delayed the amount of time Kedei Ligmar Kula. He says in Siman Ayin Cheskot on Zayin, it could be you don't have to go back to the beginning, because you could rely on the Rishonim that you did not have to interrupt. So it's not considered stopping because of an oinus. Meaning, two things. The Mishnah Berura here said, if let's say you're in the middle of Shemona Esrei and you're afraid if you were silent you might finish the whole thing, you continue davening. Why? Because you could rely on the Rashba. Earlier on, the Mishnah Berura said that if you did delay and it was Kedei Ligmar Skula, also maybe you don't have to go back, and that's because you didn't pause because of Eines, because you really could have been saying the Shemona Esrei like the Rashba says. In other words, so there are really two options. Either rely on the Rashba and continue to daven, or even if you pause and it's a really long pause, that's not going to disturb your Shemona Esrei, because since you didn't, since technically you could have continued davening, the pause is not considered a hefsek. Okay, we'll hold it over here. We'll pick it up in Siman Tzadi Aleph on Monday. Again, thank you to Rabbi Yeager for giving the Dvar Halacha, and have a wonderful Shabbos. Shkoyach. Kol tov, everyone.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.